Hello everyone. Karmano hyapi bodhavyam cha vikarmanah akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. That was the verse that we left off last week. In that, what is action, what is inaction, and what is forbidden action? One should definitely know about it. Now, Krishna is stressing here, says that state of actions should be very well understood so that you can perform actions based on that. Of course, avoidable, forbidden actions should definitely be one that one is not supposed to engage in, and that many authorities are there. The first authority is the Vedas that speak out about what actions should be avoided. Based on that, we have many stories, including the epics, right, including Mahabharata, Ramayana, that teach what actions should be performed, what actions should not be performed. And we have all negative examples in terms of Duryodhana, in terms of Ravana, Kumbhakarna. These are all negative examples of actions that should be avoided. And no one need to say that, I have not studied the Vedas, so I don't know what action should be avoided. There is a possibility of people escaping. That is why our acharyas and gurus, the ancient sages who lived long years ago, they know very well that we will escape by simply disowning it. I don't know about anything about the Vedas. How am I supposed to know about what is right and wrong? That is why people told stories. And no one can say that I cannot understand a story, because story is the simplest form of knowledge. Anyone can relate. A 5-year-old can easily appreciate a story. Story is part and parcel of our upbringing in India. Everyone who had grown up in India knows very well that when they were being brought up, stories was an integral part of their childhood. Not for no reason. It all had a reason. We planned what is right and what is wrong at that young age itself, so that it seeps into the brain, sits there. Whenever we grow up, we can apply the principles. That is why even in our Vedanta Vidyapitam also, we have every week stories. This is the young age is the age where we teach right and wrong. Instead, if you go and then teach them, advise them, saying that do this, do not do this, then they will naturally ask why, where, how, what if I do it? He is doing, she is doing, why can't I do it? We do not have answers to that. And our ancient gurus, they know very well that it would be hard for parents and other caregivers to enforce discipline on the children if we do not equip them with necessary stories. Now, storytelling is easier. You just take an example, and naturally, once upon a time, there lived a king. That is all that is needed to get an attention of a child and also of an adult equally. All people, no matter, irrespective of their age, can get hooked on to a story. So those stories like Ramayana, Mahabharata, the Puranas are our authority that tells us what should be avoided and what should be done. Rama lived a life and he showed clearly what actions as a human one needs to perform, the duties one has to perform, adhering to father's words, how important it is. And until the end, Rama never condemned the actions of Kaikeyi. In fact, towards the end, when Rama finished Ravana and he was about to take Sita in the Pushpaka Viman from Sri Lanka back to India, at that time Dasharath showed up in the sky and he asked Rama, I'm ready to give you any boon. Ask me. You just pleased. I'm so pleased with your actions because you honored my words. Just for promising me, you stayed in the forest for 14 years. So just ask anything that you wanted. And the first thing that he asked was, please take away the negativity that you have in your heart about my mother Kaikeyi. That is the first thing that he asked. And so that vengeance, hatred, all holding that in our heart, that action we should not do. Rama is a standing example, and many things he has done, which is protecting the innocence. Paritranaya sadhunam, just like based on that verse, during his 14 years, he made sure that he protected the innocence. And you can ask how we all can do it. Every one of us, if we have the heart to serve others, you will have the answer how you can serve. It is only the question of having the heart. I should be of help to others. That will give us answers as to how we can help others. That's avoidable actions and actions. What action needs to be engaged in, we should be engaged in. And inaction. Inaction is interesting one. Most of us, I would say, knowledge about inaction is very important. Everyone knows what is action because we all are used to doing actions the day we were born. But inaction is very equally important or even more important than action that we never have gotten used to. So we do not know the meaning of inaction. We should realize that when things are happening around us, if you have observed, we always have, good or bad, doesn't matter. Some good things are happening around us. Imagine that. And also equally some bad things are happening. For example, a person is just charging us or insulting us, throwing angry words at us, let's say. Our immediate response is to react. We wanted to do some action. We wanted to respond. We are restless. We do not know how to stay calm. That is an option. Most of the time, we will think that we do not have an option. We just respond. I have to defend myself. How dare how dare she says these things to me? And how can I keep quiet? Well, keeping quiet is an option. It is a much more powerful option. We have not realized that power of keeping quiet. But the moment we burst out, that is the weakness we all are used to. The moment we cannot hold it anymore. One word, two words, four words. If others say bad about us, our blood boils. Bloodshot eyes, we will just say words after words uncontrollably. And then maybe we will realize our mistake, but it is too late. How is it happening? Because we didn't exercise the option of inaction, not indulging in that action. I am not going to indulge. That is the restraint. That is power. I know I can burst now, but I do not prefer to do that. That is strength. So that strength is in action. Rama could have easily burst out on his dad, saying that, how dare you ask me to go 14 years on exile? What rights do you have? Just because you promised your second wife, not even my mother, do you think that I will say yes to it? That is how every one of us will ask, even if it is our own dad. If my own dad asks me to do it, maybe I'll ask that. Why should I go and live in that dangerous forest where I will become the next meal for the lion or some other dangerous animal? I'm not even sure that I will return back from the forest, right? So, but even at that ask from his father, Rama maintained calm. In fact, he was supposed to be made the prince. Crowning of Rama as the prince was about to begin in few minutes, and before that, Kaikeyi started this, and King Dasharatha asked Rama to. King Dasharatha didn't ask, but Rama figured that out through the words of Kaikeyi, and then he decided to go. And that is what we learn. Where is the example in history? Right there, there is an example of restraint. And no one is asking any no one is asking any of us as cruel as Rama's ask. If you just want to just think about it on an everyday basis, is there anyone who is asking us to leave home and live in the dangerous forest, Dandaka forest, for 14 years? And even if that happened, Rama stayed calm. And what is the need for us to just boil? Right? Even that happened, we should not boil, is what the example that Ramayana says. And now, for every small word that we hear, we are just boiling. Every small behavior of others, we cannot digest. Children, for example, if our own children just do something small here and there, we cannot hold up. We just shoot up, burst. Not just children, any other people's behavior. We cannot put up with it. Almost like an addiction that we just have to speak. And if people ask, then we will say that I'm just forthright. I'm a straightforward person. I will not hide. If I don't like it, I will just say it. We give our own meaning to it, a label to it, that I'm such a person. It is just our inefficiency, or we are unable to hold on, restrain, and use the option of inaction. That is what he says, that one should be aware of action and one should be aware of inaction also. It's not just action that matters. Inaction should also be, you should also be knowing. And of course, forbidden actions you know it. The next verse, let's see what he says. Let me share the screen. Karmanya karma yah pasyed karmani cha karma yah sabuddhiman manusyeshu sayuktah kritsna karma krit. Now Krishna is celebrating a person. He says that he is a buddhiman, he or she is the buddhiman. He says, sa buddhiman manushyeshu. Among the humans, that person is considered a buddhiman, the most intelligent. Sa yuktaha. He is a yogi among the humans. Even though while that person is busy performing all actions. Krishna says that just because I said yogi, do not think that that person is living in the Himalayas who has just abandoned life and then is walking, roaming around the Himalayas like a yogi. But this person is well within, lives in the city, is one among you, and performs all actions like you are doing or I am doing. But still, that person is the most wisest of all humans. Which is that person? He says in the first line, those people who can see actions in inaction, and also those people who can see inaction in actions. They are seeing inaction while there is full of actions, but they see inaction. Well, there is nothing is happening. With this normal eyes, when you see no action is happening, but still they are able to see action. Those are the people who are the smartest. You should be able to be called as the most intelligent. One who can see action in inaction and also inaction in action. Now, there is a meaning of this verse. Let's understand it much better, because slightly seems to be this verse is confusing. So let's understand that. While we are performing actions, we are involved in all activities. We are the one who is performing all the actions, starting from waking up, eating, giving, helping others, making sure that the life runs smoothly, perform all actions, but with an awareness inside that I am totally not part of this, even though I am the one who is doing it. I am detached from these actions. I am doing it because that is the right thing to do. Any action we do, this is the right thing to do, I'm doing it. So I'm seeing the actions, but I'm experiencing inaction inside because I'm detached. End of the day, this hands, this legs, this eyes, this mouth is the one that is doing the actions. Now when I speak to you, these organs are doing the action, this body is doing the action, but my soul or the Atman inside observes the inaction within itself. That Atman perfectly should appreciate that inactivity. It is just this body that is engaged in this act of talking, getting something that is stored in the memory and bringing out through this instrument of vocal instrument. Nothing else beyond that. I should not, if I start owning that, okay, I am the one who is doing this, then that is where the problem starts. It is me. I have the knowledge. I am delivering the speech. I am explaining it. That is where the bondage starts. When we start doing that, then there is no freedom. So here he says that, Arjuna, you wanted to fight these enemies. Remember to see inaction in your actions. Do your actions. You are the one who has to do. With your hands, slay the enemies, but still within yourself, see the inaction of your Atman. Observe it that you are eternal. Observe that your inner being is not engaged in anything, but it is just situated in that knowledge that you are doing it purely as a yajna to me. Even in the previous sloka is mentioned that. Right? Do this action and do it as a yajna to me. Now, how do we relate to this one? Imagine a toy, that is operated with some batteries. A drums toy, right? You would have seen that. Once you switch on, it will just play the drums. The toy is operating. You switch on, it just does it. How does it do it? There is this two AA batteries or one AA battery. Let's call it one AA battery. A AA battery is inside. Remove that battery. Now switch it on. Now that toy is not beating the drums. Put that battery in. The toy starts beating. That Atman is precisely similar to the example there. Our Atman inside is just the battery that is driving this whole thing, and that Atman itself is driven by Super Atman. Paramatman is driving that battery of ours. In this, there is nothing like I am doing, right? It is like that toy claiming that I have been beating this. The only difference is that the toy doesn't know, the toy is not aware that there is some beating happening and the toy is beating, and we are assuming that we are doing it because it is our Atman inside. We are not able to see the Atman as a separate battery fitted inside this body. We are thinking that Atman and ourselves are one and the same, and this hand is mine, and this hand is also mine, this legs are mine, this eyes are mine, this brain is mine. I am doing the action. That is when that thought will come, right? The moment we see it as a detached, I myself am a detached, I am being driven by some force. Every action that I do, I walk, I see, my organs are present within myself, but I am totally separate from this body. Then that thought should be established. If that thought is established, then I will totally able to see inaction in actions while performing the actions. That person will not stop any actions. That person will keep on doing the actions that is supposed to be done in this world, but he will not see any actions being performed. He will see only inaction in his mind. So there is an interesting story about Krishna. You might have heard about that story. A lot of gopis one day decided to perform upavas, and after the end of the upavas, they wanted to feed a brahmana. So they prepared delicious feast, all the gopis of Vrindavan. And then they asked Krishna, this is what it is. Who is the best person who we can feed and finish our upavas? So Krishna thought for a while and he said, across this river Yamuna, Durvasa is there. He is the best among the sages. Feed him. Then all the gopis were happy. They prepared all meals and then they got ready. They held it on their heads and they are about to deliver the food to Durvasa. But they don't know how to cross this Yamuna. So they came again to Krishna and then they said, you simply asked us to do and we also didn't think. How are we going to cross this Yamuna? Then Krishna told apparently that go and tell river Yamuna that Nitya Brahmachari Krishna wanted to give way to all of you. And all those gopis wondered. That is unbelievable. You are not a Nitya Brahmachari. He said, go ahead, give it a try. And so all these gopis stood in front of Yamuna. They said, Nitya Brahmachari Krishna wanted you to give way to all of us. And suddenly Yamuna paved way for all the gopis. They wondered, that is impossible. How can Krishna be Nitya Brahmachari? He married that 16,000 women when he destroyed Narakasura. Besides the ones that we already know, Rukmani, Bama, and many others, plus that 16,000. How can he be Nitya Brahmachari? But they went ahead. On the other side, Durvasa was there and they requested, Krishna asked us to do this and you are the one who should bless us by eating this food. Because he was a sage, he just had a little bit of food and he said, I'm done. I'm happy, I'm full. He used to eat grass. That was his staple food. But then, so today these gopis brought some food. He just tasted a bit and he said, I'm done. I'm quite happy. But gopis were not happy because naturally when they prepared so much of food, if the other person, especially Durvasa, eats all food fully, at least to the contentment of his stomach, then they will be happy, not a little bit of them, right? So they were like not that much happy. Durvasa figured that out and then he said, okay, just put everything down, I will eat them all. So with his mystical magical powers, he just emptied them all in few minutes. Then all gopis were very happy. And then they were about to leave. And then they asked him now, oh no, how are we going to go back? Let's go back and ask Durvasa away. Then then Durvasa asked them to say this to Yamuna. Go and tell Yamuna that the person who is hungry is asking you to pave way. Then they were even more taken aback. What? We finished everything and he is asking us to go and say that the person who is hungry. Then they did it and Yamuna paved the way again and then they crossed the Yamuna, reached the other side, asked Krishna what is happening. Then he said that even though we do actions, that includes God or rishis or yogis who are well established, even though we do actions, we see only inaction. We end up with not doing anything. And the sins or the good karma or bad karma, whatever that is associated with those actions, doesn't taint us. We stay out of all this, because we have that thought in our mind that we are not doing engaged in any actions, even though we are the ones who is performing the actions. That is why those are all truth. Whatever that I said is also truth, whatever Durvasa said is also truth, because we, even though we did it, we didn't engage ourselves in that thought that we are doing it. We maintained that we are in action. We are not involved in that action inside of us. So the thought that we hold in our mind is the key in terms of, but doing, yes, of course, this body is the one that is engaged in doing it. So that is one thing that we have explained. The other one is how to see. Now we are able to see inaction in action. Now let's take an example for vice versa. You might have many times wondered, many people used to say, and you yourself would have observed, that person was so much going through a lot of things in terms of disease. It can be any person. All of a sudden, when they showed the reports to the doctor, everything disappeared, and then magically the person recovered and nothing was there. Nothing. They didn't do any surgeries, they didn't perform any treatment, but the person recovered. Nothing happened to him. There was absolute inaction, but there was an action, right? So that is seeing action in inaction. Nothing is there, but still we are able to see an action. That is one thing, have it in mind. The other one to view that one is this: we do not know how few things happen. All of a sudden we just are in a situation where, oh my god, I don't know how I got into the situation. I don't even know, right? That all of us have been there in that state, in that situation. We are totally not even involved in that, but all of a sudden we are on the receiving end. I do not know what, again, inaction in me. I didn't perform anything, but I'm seeing the action. That also should be viewed as whatever that I'm receiving is from that Supreme. That thought is there with yogis. Whatever they, even if others go and blast them, curse them, yogis are unperturbed. They are not disturbed by the words. So even though there is action, they see that inaction within them. Right? So even though everything happens outside, they are able to well established stay calm within inside, because they know that that action is coming from that Paramatma, even though there is no action within me. So they are able to establish that. So such a difference, such a mindset is what is important. All of a sudden, if I do it, that is also done by him. If I receive it, that is also because of him. There is nothing like I am doing it, so I will receive it. Even if I don't do anything at all, there is no actions involved, but still there is an action from outside, external action. That acceptance is what is important, and not all people, not we don't have that excuse me, we do not have that mindset of accepting that. If we do something, if a bad reaction happens to it, maybe to some extent we will accept it. Yeah, because I did a wrong thing. That also needs some kind of mindset. We will start blaming God at that time. Something good happens as a reaction. If we do something, good reaction happens, we will own it. It's because of my brain hard work. I have put in so many hours, and I intelligently analyzed. Because of me, it could not have been possible. And we want to hear from others also, reassuring that, yeah, you did it, you did it, you did it, you did it. But if something messed up, negative reaction happens, we do not want anyone to speak about it. At that time, we don't want to hear that you did it, you did it, you did it. Can you just stop blaming me? We are impatient to accept that, see? But we are okay to accept if it is good. But yogis, anyone can be a yogi. Again, yogis are not the ones who are roaming around the Himalayas. Anyone can be a yogi. One among us can be a yogi. Yogis are the ones who just know to accept anything that bad happens, even for the action that I didn't do. Bad happens, it is not just that, okay, I have to go through it. That is different. Going through it is different. Whether you go through it or you're smart or you're intelligent and you try to fix the issue, that is totally different. I'm not speaking about that. But to first accept it as any trigger event automatically happens. Anyone just brings up a news that this just happened. Then immediate response is, oh my God, why did it happen to me? And then we go into our pitying mode, right? Self-pity, where we just curse ourselves or others. And then we go down the drain and then everything happens. The mind system collapses. So this is the shloka that we should remember, where that will prevent that mental system from experiencing negative effects. When we are ready to do actions but not own anything. I am doing these actions as an yajna or a puja to him, good or bad. Then whatever reaction that we receive, again I did it in his name. So that reaction also belongs to him. It is also is from him. So I am not the owner of it. Even if it, but that doesn't mean that do not use your brain. That is what most of the people mistake. Whatever that happens, I'll have to go through. If that were the case, whatever happens, just accept it blindly. Just go through it. If that were the case, then we would not have been given a brain. We would have been just feelers. We just live our life, eat, feel. So thinking is something, a capability that is given to everyone. That is because with the power of thinking, we can alter the course. Okay, this has happened and he wants me to use my brain to alter my situation. And then when I am using that brain to figure out, again I am having that detachment when taking the decisions. But I am using the brain. The brain is just a tool. It is not I am doing it. Brain is a tool that is given to me to take the decision in this situation. And then I take appropriate decision, leave the results again to him. Again it returns back positively. Again I will not accept it as I used my brain. Again it belongs to him. A person who just gives away the fruits and does with a detached actions can be free is the statement that he is trying to say. Now let's see the next verse. Yasya sarve samarambha कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं tamahuh panditam buddhaha. That person is intelligent. Again, he's praising one more person here. That person is considered to be intelligent, who can uh, whenever that person begins, yasya sarve samarambhaha, everything, anything, an action, when we are beginning to do, he just begins with the promise of not attaching his mind or not doing it to satisfy the cravings of inner cravings of the mind. That can be towards anything. It can be money, power, it can be this, that, I wanted to eat this, anything. Mental cravings, we all know, right? Anything is a mental craving. Properties, accumulation. If that person is willing to uh, promise to start anything by sacrificing, varjita, remove, kama sankalpa varjitaha, void of any desire. We are beginning an action, and that action should qualify with this. Again, everything happens in the mind. Nothing is different. Everything happens in the mind. Thought. The thought is what he wanted us to inspect and modify. I'm beginning an action, I'm doing an action, I'm promising myself that this action I'm doing it not because of my de- craving to fulfill my desires. That desires can be our indriyas, based on our indriyas, or it can be anything beyond indriyas. Again, are five indriyas we have, right? In order to please the indriyas, or in order to please our ego, please our envy, that person does this, so I'm doing it. Please our greed, I wanted to get more, more and more and more, right? So I'm not happy yet. I'm not happy. I want 2 houses, 3 houses, 4 houses, 6 houses, 10 houses, 4 cars, 6 cars, jewelry, kg, 1,000 kg, 1,000 kg, not enough still, right? That is the craving. I wanted to put an, if that action, any action we perform, if that is void of such cravings, then that person is really the most wisest. And how can we do that? Now Arjuna asked, so what does that person should do when such a desire is there? In the same shloka he answers that Jnanagni Jnana Agni. Jnana is intelligence. Agni is fire. Dagdha is burn. So Arjuna, if that person, because desire is something that is hard, it will not go from any person. It's easy to say, even for me also. It is easy to say sitting here, just sacrifice that, leave it. But every human is born with desires. So if such a desire, it's just because you shoo away, it will not go away from us. So what is that we should do when such desires arise in our mind, when we are about to do any actions in this world, while we are helping others, while we are trying to do our work, or when we are, what is it that will happen? Now Krishna says that such desires, wise person will burn that desire in the fire of intelligence. Jnana Agni is fire of intelligence. Now that you have this knowledge about what is desire, how it can try to mentally, emotionally destabilize you. You have that knowledge now, because desires keep on and on and on and on. If you just meet the desires, it won't be happy. It will ask for more. You meet that desire, it will ask for more. There is no end to it. You know the mechanics of the desire. With that knowledge, and also you know about action should be performed with a detachment. You burn that desire in that knowledge. So that is the reason that people perform the yajnas. Fire is ignited, and mantras are recited, and lot of offerings are made on that, right? Like ghee or rice or many other things, clothes sometimes, and many other things are offered. The person who is offering that, mentally he has to think, all this, my desires inside are going into that, into that. Swaha, swaha, swaha. Every time he says swaha, that desires are going, and I'm just offering that into that fire. I mean, mentally we can imagine that. That's why physically also they have created something called that yajna. But now every time we cannot perform that yajna whenever we are about to begin an action. That is why this fire of intelligence, anytime we can imagine, visualize that. In our visualization, take that desire, whatever that is, offer it into that intelligence, and then say that, burn that out without any trace, burn that desire, erase it without any trace, and then start performing it. Initially it will be difficult, but as we do it repeatedly, consciously, as we burn more and more desires, then that person gets detached. Then there is no uh, uh, then there is freedom to that person. That person will not still go to the Himalayas and then do meditation, doesn't have to do that. That person doesn't have to be even a yogi where he just roams around all the places and enlightened, but that person will never be disturbed by the ups and downs of life. Only when we burn that desire while doing the actions. He is going to say it in the next verse. Let's see that. त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गं नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः. Such a beautiful shloka. Tyaktva, sacrificing, karma phala sangam, the fruit, attachment to the fruits of action. Karma pala sangam is attachment to the fruits of action. Nitya tripto, ever satisfied. After sacrificing that attachment to the fruits of action, satisfied internally. Nirashrayaha, without any expectation, any dependence on anything. Because the moment you sacrifice the fruit, we are not dependent on anything. We are not doing to ourselves. We are not doing to pamper ourselves. That job needs to be done in its entirety for the spirit of it, and not for the pampering or for my own benefit of it. So that gives a perfect direction to the mind, without any dependence or expectation for myself. Nirashrayah karmanyabhipravrittopi. Even though that person is performing the action, while performing that action, naiva kinchit karoti saha. That person is even small amount, he is not even doing that action. So he is free from the reactive karma, whether it is good or bad, of that action. Kinchit is even a small amount. Even a small amount also, that person is untouched. He is untainted by the good karma or the bad karma that results from that actions, and that person is not even doing it. He is freed already from that action, leave alone the results of it. He is not even doing it. When that person is willing to sacrifice the fruit and then perform the action with no expectation, and with a and then again he adds one more word is important here. We also will do it, we have been asked to do, so we will just say, okay, I'm just sacrificing the fruits. And then we will also have not expectation. Okay, no expectation, I'm not having any expectation in my mind. That is also good. But then we will be sad and depressed on doing the action. That also will not work, because satisfied within himself, contentment is there already. The contentment is already full here. On doing it, now let's say that I'm full content. A person had his lunch. Let's say you had your full lunch, 3 course meal, wonderful, delicious with desserts. Everything is done. You have had the best meal. After that, you're just leaving the restaurant or whatever, wherever you had your food. You're just walking, and if someone invites you, let's have some snacks. Do you think you'll go? You will say okay to that? No, because you're already full. But you will say that, however, you invited me to your house, I will just stop by to your house, but I don't need any food because I am already full. Won't we say that? We are doing the action of going to that person's house, but we are not eating the fruit of it because we are already full. That is what he means here, that that person is already full, Arjuna. The contentment to that person, as he practices this more and more and more and more of sacrificing, that person will already be feeling satisfied in his mind, that in doing this action he will not even expect any results to make him even more happy, because he is already at the peak of his happiness. Just like how you are fully satisfied with a feast and you don't want more, the results of that action doesn't have to do anything to you, but still you will do that action. That is how then that person is, even though he does the action, nothing is going to affect him or her. That is what he means. And then 21st verse, निराशिर यथ चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म kurvannapnoti kilbisham. So this is also again an important verse. He is restating that in the previous thing, but a slightly different perspective. Nirashir, without any expectation. Again, that is reiterating, because once you get some fruits is one thing, that attaching to ourselves and then saying that, but even before that, whenever we are starting to do something, having an expectation is totally different, right? After you have done it and then the fruits are you are starting to get the fruits, enjoying is one thing. Even before we start something, oh, I need to do it so that I will be this, I will do this so that I can make that, whatever that is what the expectation is, that itself should be removed. That is when we can be free from desires. Expectation is there, then naturally your desires are brooding inside, brewing inside us, right? The more that expectation is brewing inside us, it becomes intense, then that is what is pulling us down. Nirashir yathachittatma. And then not only that, after having freed ourselves from the expectations, yathachittatma, control the mind with the intellect. That is very important, because how is what is being mentioned here. How you can achieve that? Your intellect is there, you use that knowledge and with the knowledge consciously control the mind, because mind's action is always desires. No matter what, if you just leave the mind alone, you can easily observe that, right? Anyone can practically perform this experiment. If you just leave it, just thoughts, 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 thoughts fills the mind. Now each thought, just go with it and then observe it. What thought is it? Where is it leading me towards? Naturally that thought will disappear because you have started observing it. The thought is the super villain. It tries to hijack our mind and then take us elsewhere. It doesn't want us to focus on what we wanted to do, but instead it has its own agenda. So that's the reason that when you start observing it, okay, where else you want me to go? Let me go with you and then see where you are taking me. Then the thought will disappear. Then the next thought, go with it few seconds, and then observing mode. Do not get dissolved in that. Do not associate yourself with the thought, but instead observe the thought and then see where it goes. If it pull back, so thoughts will keep on hijacking us, and each thought leads at the end will lead to a desire, and with that desire we get energy to do an action. We perform action with that desire, and then that brings more thoughts, and then desire, and then action. So that is how the loop never gets cut, and we are in the loop all the time, being pulled and pushed by the desires and born out of the thoughts that we have produced within ourselves. We are the victims of our own thoughts. And thought, when I say, it is a desire in disguise, right? So that is the thought. So now we have the intellect. In intellect is one that decides right from wrong, and as far as we are concerned, not everything is brain. Okay, just because everything happens in the brain doesn't mean that just don't call it as a brain. Brain has two different functions. One is thought producing, which is this, and the other one is the control is within us, which is the intellect, that with which we can decide whether to do it or not do it, go or not go, say yes or no. That is our brain, the logical part of it. That has nothing to do with thoughts. In fact, with that logical part, you are observing that thought. That means that it is two, right, already, because you're observing one part of the brain with the other part of the brain. So that is the one that we should use it as a tool to make sure that our mind is controlled, tamed, and with no expectation. Nirashir yatachittatma tyakta sarva parigraha. Parigraha means ownership, which is I own it, mine, I have to do it for me, mine, my everything, anything we associate that ownership, right? Or I have done it because of me, it has tyaktva, sacrifice that ownership using your intellect, and by restraining your mind and by not having any expectation, sacrifice that ownership. Then and then what? And then do it with the thought that just this body is performing that action. Shariram kevalam karma. That means just this body is involved in this action, but I am using my mind to control, I'm using my intellect to control my mind, and I do not have any expectation. This body has to perform this action. Let me do it. With that thought, if we do it, then no sin will occur to you. No sin will accrue to you, is what Krishna says, and finishes that verse. We will see what happens next verse next week. श्रियः कान्ताय कल्याणनिधये निधयेत्तिनां श्रीवेङ्कटनिवासाय श्रीनिवासाय मङ्गलम्. सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु. Have a good rest of your evening and rest of the week.